topic that I will be talking about is strategic positioning of women for investors and meaningful partnerships. As women, we know that whatever a woman can do, a man can do. Whatever a man can do, a woman can do. Is said as a cliche, but there's a process that needs to get you there. There are things that needs to be done. And Dr. Musa said it all. Policies have to be designed intentionally to affect women positively. If it's not done, a lot of people will not take the time to do it. We also need to be able to address women leadership. What are the challenges? What are the needed competencies that we need to have as women? Of course, when we have the competencies, how do we leverage it? How do we make it that we're confident and competent enough to be given a platform like this, like the Berkeleys, who intentionally help women to find how to be a better self? Once they have a passion, from what I've heard, they create a provision through coaching, through training. How do we make sure that our women have such? Leveraging the power of choice. Women need to have the access to choosing. And the power of choice means that whoever the decision makers are, whoever the policy makers are, they do not judge anyone by their sex. They judge them by the content and also by their competency. So giving women the opportunity to choose and to be intentional about their career. How can a woman have a career? How can a woman even have a voice if they're not given a platform to be able to birth a voice that the world is waiting for? We also need to rethink systems and challenges and assumptions. It has been historically assumed that women need to be on the back seat. Sometimes, yes, but if a woman has the gusto to be on the front end and they've been well educated enough to be competent and to represent, we should have a he for she support to ensure that together we build a better world, because that's what it's all about. We also want to consider a women-only leadership, a leadership that is inclusive of women. When women are together, we are nurturing beings. We are multitasking people. Our heart, we lead from our heart. We don't just lead, we lead from our heart. We look at what is expected and how can it affect the world, the nation. So we need to be intentional and have situations and create opportunities where women leaders are all that matters. So at that point, the think tank, the brainstorming can come. For instance, when you are part of I'm a commissioner in my state in Maryland. When we are at the table discussing issues, you would immediately spot on see the thinking of the women and the men. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means that we have to be positioned to allow our thinking to be embraced. And we have to be positioned to allow our thinking to be deposited so other people can hear it. Even the men don't always want to be in antagonist. They don't want to antagonize what we're doing, but sometimes they don't understand it. But when we're given the opportunity to be at the table and our voices are heard, it affects how we position for investors. I wanted to draw this setting before I go into how do you strategically position someone for investor and partnerships. It all begins with how you are, the environment that you are raised in. It begins with the environment that you migrate in. If the corporations create enabling environment. For me, Bank of America created an enabling environment, and I rose from a teller to vice president, even though I had 4 strikes, Black, female, Nigerian accent, still was able to rise up. But if such environment was not created, somebody could get stuck with me saying, oh, you have an accent, I can't hear you. But they look beyond that. So that's what I'm challenging all of us to do. And when we do that, we can position our women strategically for investors, because all investors are looking for is good opportunities to invest and to guarantee that they can get their return back on their investment. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man that makes it happen. We also want to ensure that we create the right networks. I know you're saying, Remi, what is the right network? The right network is just what we're in right now. The networks that are intentional about making sure that policy talks are done at the table, relationships are being harnessed. When we see someone who is striving, someone who is already knowledgeable in a field, we should look beyond whether they're a woman or a man. It should just be a level playing field. And you can tell, because women, we are very sensitive beings. We have a way of sensing when we're accepted and when we're just being tolerated. And I want to say today that women are sick and tired of being tolerated, especially when you have paid your price, when you have paid your dues, and you've got the knowledge just like any man. So what women would generally do is just drift away if we believe that we have to come and prove ourselves again when we have already done it. So strategic positioning for women is having an environment where our voices will be heard, where we are able to show forth our knowledge, our talent, and our treasure, where we're also being able to bring other women along. And I want to stop for a minute and also talk to my women out there. The ball is also in our court. For this strategic positioning for investors or meaningful partnerships, how many people are you reaching out of your comfort zone, out of your zip code, out of your everyday network to show and to share platforms with, to share opportunities with? The ball is in our court. We've got to reach out and find women like us, young and old and whatever, to let them know about opportunities. It doesn't mean they will embrace it all the time, but we need to do a better job of reaching out. Each one touch one. And when we do that, our positioning for the investors would come. Who are investors? Women are investors too. So are men. So investors has nothing to do with your sex. What it has to do is how are you packaged? In my banking world, we say, are you bankable? Are we packaging ourselves to be able to speak in front of anybody that is somebody about a course that we believe in? All we are doing in the world is trying to find solutions to create opportunities so we can all have a good life. And women are not exempted from that. So our mindset, when we design policies, I speak to our governmental powers who are there to represent us. When you're representing us, you're representing male and female. And a smart representative of anybody would ensure that we move everybody along and that we create platforms where our policies are intentional. And when those policies are being created, that women voices are there. Policies that would make it work-life balance so that when you are making presentation, people see that. With COVID, we can see that a lot of things that we're doing are virtual. And I've had colleagues who are big shots with their company. In meetings, their child will walk in. If it's a baby, that baby don't know any restrictions. They just want to come in. We need to be embracive of whatever situation that is there. And we need to create it and have that intentionality. Like Dr. Musa was speaking, I was like, wow, if we have a lot of he for she, who would not just talk? Because talk is cheap, you all. But what Berkeley is doing, they have created a platform for all of us, for women who are hearing us right now. You have no excuses. I heard them say, you bring your opportunities, and there are platforms that they can help to ensure that you become and birth that idea or that business opportunity that you want to do. When you consider a woman-owned leadership, just a woman-only leadership, it doesn't mean that the whole corporation will be all women. Let's make it majority. Let's have committees that we know that are meaningful and ensure that we have our women sitting on that. So that is what is called strategic positioning, because there's no school that you go to and say, oh, I'm going to learn about strategic positioning for women. It's all in your mindset. And how do things in your mind become set? It's through your experience, it's through your exposure, it's through your expertise, and so on. So what we're saying is that there's got to be an intentionality in designing things that would help us to make sure that when we're building, we're having that sensitivity to carrying the female along. And when we do that, we build for the world. Our building for the world is going to be intentional. Every woman, every man deserves to experience the best. And as fathers out there, as men out there who have sisters, if you think of it from that perspective, you would never want to limit them. So why would you limit a coworker who is female? So the strategic positioning is also creating platforms whereby you are also making referrals, intentional referrals to help one another, knowing that we're all building together. And when we can display successes in different facets, we will get more women on board. And I know that I'm very close to my finishing time. We want to experience driven development. Driven development are created through platforms that will give you coaching opportunities, training opportunities, even just simple social opportunity where all you're doing, you're not talking about business, you're just talking about the possibilities and just having fun. Those are ways that you can foster relationship with investors. People do business with people they like and trust. What I'm saying with strategic positioning, there has to be positioning whereby we begin to earn each other's trust. We begin to create platforms like Berkeley just did now to allow voices all over the world to be heard. And there could be a word, there could be a voice that you will hear today for my women who are listening or men that will help you move to that, pivot to that next level. When I started as a teller, I knew I was going to be a vice president. I didn't know when because I went in with an MBA. But there were people who allowed their shoulders for me to lean on. I also, as a woman, didn't see that as an impediment. So it begins with us. We've got to think beyond that we are women and this and that. It's not that. What knowledge do you carry? How are you impacting knowledge to others? How are you building more knowledge for yourself so you can sit with anybody and be able to offer your words of wisdom? Because all we are trying to do, as I close, is to make the world a better place. And the women cannot be left behind because the women are relevant to everything that we do. The women will make decisions that will even make companies be more sustainable because they think about the whole nation when they're making decisions. So I want to thank Berkeley for this opportunity. We only have a few minutes. I want to thank you for creating this opportunity and this platform. And I do hope that it's continuous and that it's intentional so we can have testimonials, not just with the women, with the emerging leaders.